All right, guys, we're doing a special show today on Columbus Day. Happy Columbus Day, by the way. People ask, does this day really matter? I mean, obviously it does to some degree because it's a day being fought over. People want it to be Columbus Day. Other people want it to be Indigenous Peoples Day, which I would say are both a person and people to be celebrated and to learn about and to study and take from them traits that can be beneficial for our children. Guess what? I think Columbus Day matters, and this is why. Because great men who do great things need to be celebrated. They need to be honored. Now, obviously, Columbus wasn't perfect. No man has been perfect other than Jesus Christ. And yet, from these great men, whether it's Crockett, whether it's Churchill, whoever it might be, we can take the good and we can emulate that and we can pass that on and we can learn from the bad. We can learn from mistakes. This is what's so cool about people. This is what's so cool about my own life is I look at my kids and I say, okay, this is what I did right. Learn from that. This is what I did wrong. Learn from that also. Things have changed, folks. Check this out. This is a coin. It's 130 years old. This was minted by our government in 1892 to celebrate the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus. It has his portrait on the front. On the back, it has the Nina Pinta and the Santa Maria. And you will notice that this wasn't minted again in 1992, at least not to my knowledge. Here's a book from the 1990s about Christopher Columbus. It's a great book. It's really cool. It teaches my kids how to read and also teaches them about this man who had the courage and the bravery and the persistence to not quit in his dream. Perhaps you've heard of the animated hero classics that came out, I believe, in the 90s or even maybe the late 80s. Christopher Columbus is one of those classic heroes. Now, what we always hear, though, is people say, and they scream it, but there was slavery involved. Well, unfortunately, yes. All of history is filled with slavery, even up to the present day. And there is not one ethnic group, one people group that were not either slaves. I'm sorry, all of them were either slaves at times or had slaves at times. I mean, you can't give me one people group from Asia, from Africa, from the Americas, from Europe, who were not both slaves and slave owners. It's just a really bad reality, and we can learn from that. But to throw out heroes, to throw out people who give us examples because slavery was involved, I think is to really rob our children of amazing legacies and principles that, look, society hasn't gotten better since we've got on this woke train of rejecting everything that has slavery touching it. Society has gotten worse. It doesn't produce better people. It actually, ironically, and I wasn't planning on getting into this, but it produces racist people. I mean, it really does. This kind of reverse, weird twist on racism where you have people that shout against racism, and yet they judge people based on their skin. They say, no, that person should be promoted just because of the color of their skin, or that person should be demoted. It's really, really weird. And it's really, really crazy. And we need to follow the example of Grandma and Grandpa in this regard. So why did Columbus sail west? I want to give you 3 reasons. First of all, because he was a man. He was a manly man. And manly men, when they look at a body of water and ocean and they go, wait a minute, you're telling me that we don't know what's over there? They want to go check it out. And the reason why more didn't is because it cost a lot of money. I mean, Columbus was waiting for years and years for the resources to do this great expedition. So men were chomping at the bit to explore. That's something that is a very manly characteristic. Secondly, for opportunity of wealth and opportunity to take dominion for God, which would involve sharing the gospel. This was something that was on Isabella's heart, is that, hey, Columbus is going to be able to go and he's going to be able to share the gospel with these people. And that kind of ties in with the third reason. Many people don't know this, but one of Columbus's earliest memories as he was walking the streets of Italy or Genoa with his parents, when he was a toddler, all of a sudden the church bells started ringing and news started spreading and his parents started weeping. And he looked and he didn't know what was wrong. And they told him that Constantinople had fallen. That was the year 1453. He was a young child. That the Turks or Islam had conquered Constantinople. And he wrote in his journal that he always had a burning passion to be able to circumvent the globe so that Christians could take back Constantinople. Constantinople, of course, was a source of great Christian culture, literacy, education. The classics were there. The Hagia Sophia was there. It was an amazing stronghold that lasted 1,000 years longer than its counterpart, the Western Roman Empire, in that sense. Again, people argue that we shouldn't celebrate this day because Christopher was flawed. And guess what? He was. He was flawed. Slavery was involved. He had issues. And that instead, because of his flaws, we should make this Indigenous Peoples Day. Well, here is the contradiction, or here is the inconsistency. Indigenous people, awesome. Native people, great. I mean, I love studying the Cherokee and the Comanche and the Apache, the Aztec, the Mayans, the Incas. But guess what? Those people were greatly flawed, and they were all about slavery. And many of them were about human sacrifice. Almost all of them would kidnap people and burn them, women and children, burn them alive. So once again, this is where the woke train has swung the pendulum so far that the pendulum has gone off its hinges, and there's no consistency whatsoever. Columbus was a man of vision. He was a man of courage. His vision and courage was one of the broad steps in bringing the gospel to these shores, and culminating in 1776 with the founding of the greatest of Christian republics, the United States of America. So friends, teach your children about the good things and the great example that Columbus gave us. Happy Columbus Day. Blessings.